That's good. If I get into it, then I forget that I'm the one that has to get up here. You don't know. Well, today I'm starting a series based on the book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. And as often happens when I start a series, sometimes the first page just catches me and I have to like stop right there. But in this case, the title was enough to stop me. I thought, 7 spiritual laws, is that all there are? Well, I don't know for sure. There may be more. I don't think there's less. But the 7 is what we're going to talk about in this series. And so that's the first thing. And then I was thinking, okay, spiritual laws. What do we really mean when we say spiritual law? Well, just like there are physical laws, there are spiritual laws. There's physical laws that are that are happening right now that we participate in, whether we know about them or not. For instance, there's the law of aerodynamics. It's what keeps airplanes in the air. There's a law that's associated with the combustion engine. Most of us got here, I think, in a car. Maybe somebody rode their bicycle. But the combustion engine works on properties that are laws. There are laws that govern the way the physics. An object stays in motion, starts in motion and stays in motion until there's an opposite force that works on it, right? There are a lot of laws around gravity that way. And these laws work whether we understand them or not. And the thing is, all of these physical laws existed before they were discovered. You know, we think, oh, somebody discovered this law. Well, the law was there. We just figured out how to use it, right? There was always a law that said a hunk of metal could fly in the air. The Wright brothers just figured out how to make that happen. Figured out how to get off of the ground with something that was heavier than the air itself. But the laws are already there. They simply became aware of them. We become aware of laws, and it's the same thing with spiritual law. There are a bunch of spiritual laws that we live by, and sometimes we might not even know that that's the case, but that doesn't make it not true. And all the spiritual laws that there are, whether there are 7 or more, are already laws. We just become aware of them. We become aware of them, and then when we become aware of them, then we can use them. We can actually use them, but not until we become aware of them. Now, spiritual laws operate in the realm of consciousness or spirit. Physical laws, obviously, operate in the physical world. And spiritual laws really are knowledge and wisdom about how things go from the unmanifest into the manifest in our consciousness, from the unseen to the seen. That's what spiritual laws are about. And they operate, like I said, the same way that physical laws work, in that they're all there. They're complete in their completeness. We just haven't become aware of them. They work in beyond the physical world. Have you ever heard the word metaphysics and thought, oh, metaphysics must be something I could never understand? Metaphysics simply means beyond the physical. And that's where spiritual laws operate. That's where the realm of spirit. We say mind, body, spirit. Spirit. The spiritual laws, the essence of ourself, okay? That's where they operate. And we've talked about this before, really, here at the Soul Center, with things like whatever you pay attention to is what your experience is. You know, when you buy that car, that new car, and then you start seeing that same new car everywhere because it's in your consciousness, okay? Whatever you focus on becomes prominent in your mind. If you have a headache, and there's nothing else you can think of, seems like it becomes worse and worse, right? Because we focus our attention on it, it becomes higher energy, and it's right in front of us. We also say things like, what goes around comes around. You might not think of that as a spiritual law, but it's the basis for a spiritual law. We already all know that. Usually we say it, unfortunately, just in situations that are bad. Right? Well, he's going to get his, or she's going to get hers, because what goes around comes around. But that's the truth with any energy we put out. Whatever we put out, whatever we tend to see, or whatever we focus on, we'll see more of. We'll see more of. If you read my blog this week, you got a little bit more about that. What you see What you focus on is what you see more of. If you're looking for the good, you will find it because you're looking for it. So those are the kind of things. So the next word on this book is, so we talked about 7, we talked about spiritual law, and now it says success. The 7 spiritual laws of success. Well, what's the definition of success? We need to ground that first and understand what we're talking about. Well, from the dictionary.com, this is the definition of success. It says the attainment of wealth, position, honors, or the like. The origin is from the Latin successus, which means this, listen up, an advance, succession, happy outcome. You see, we've kind of corrupted the definition to only mean material stuff. That's what we think about when we think about success. But that's not really the truth of the matter. Let me read you the definition that we are going to be working with in this series. Success in life could be defined as the continued expansion of happiness and the progressive realization of worthy goals. Success is the ability to fulfill your desires with effortless ease. Oh. Success also includes good health, energy and enthusiasm, fulfilling relationships, creative freedom, emotional and psychological stability, and a sense of well-being and peace of mind. That's the whole enchilada, as it were. I mean, it's not just material wealth. It has to do with that mind, body, and spirit. It's how I feel, what my attitude is, the sense of self that I have. That's the success that we want to achieve. Not just material success. How many people know somebody who has material wealth and is maybe not one of the happiest people you know? Yeah. Because success is more than that. It's more than that. It's the whole person. It's this mind, body, and spirit. But even beyond that in this series, even beyond that idea of success, what true success is the unfolding of the divine in me and the unfolding of the divine in you. That's what it's about. The unfolding of God itself in you and through you. Well, what does that look like, that unfolding? Really what that unfolding is in some traditions what they call living in bliss, in total bliss, seeing and experiencing God in every moment, in every person, in everything. Whew! I'd love to live like that. Not sure I'm that evolved, but that's the ultimate success in life, is to live from that place of total bliss. Like I said, not sure we'll get there, but the idea with these spiritual laws is that we become aware of them and we incorporate them into our lives, so that our lives become more joyful, that we're moving in that direction, moving in that succession toward a joyful life, toward a fulfilling life, with every step we take, with every decision we make. That's really what I hope we become aware of as we use the spiritual laws that I'll talk about. So that's the groundwork, really, for this series. So what's the first law? Well, if you read it on Facebook or looked at the itinerary for what's happening, the law of pure potentiality is what Deepak Chopra calls the first law. It's really not so much a law to begin with, but it's a truth. It's an understanding of the source of creation. And the truth about the source of creation is that it is, we can call it God, we can call it Spirit, is that it's everywhere around us and we are in it. We are an expression of this creative power in a universe we call God. It is our spiritual essence. When you say mind, body, spirit, I'm saying spirit is our essence. And we come from that place of pure consciousness, pure potential. We can call it God. And we are simply an expression of that. We're like this blip that came out like this. And the key about it is that we're never disconnected from it, and we're never disconnected from each other, because there's only one. Now, a bunch of people are looking at me like, what is she talking about? Let me read you this story to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. This is a story from Smith's 4T Prosperity Program. I don't know if anybody's ever taken it. I have a bunch of notes in it. You might recognize the story. He says, let me tell you a story about 3 little fish in Monterey Bay. These 3 little fish were going to fish school, and one day their professor told them about water. He told them that water was present at every point in space at the same time. So after school that day, the 3 little fish were talking and wondering where the water really was. One of the little fish understood the concept. He knew he was already in the water. The other 2 said with great excitement, let's go find the water. And so they swam the 7 seas, and finally, years later, they returned to Monterey Bay, old and decrepit, impoverished and home to die. They looked up their old fish school chum, who was still looking young. Yeah, you got that one, didn't you? Who was still looking young, who had a whole string of condominiums on the reef, a fine family, and several generations of grand fish. And the 2 fish asked, how did you ever find the water? You see, this creative energy in the universe, this God I'm talking about, is that water. It's everywhere present at the same time. It flows through our gills if we were that fish. There's no separation from it. We exist in it. But we forget, because the seduction of being in this physical body is so great, we forget that we are spiritual beings. Just like the fish, we forget. And that's why I say things like, you hear me say out there, God is breathing me, God is living me, God is sustaining me. It's not me, this body, that's doing that. There is this energy and power in the universe that is living me. And that's what it is. It's the water that we cannot see because we are so enthralled and seduced by our physical mind and body. Wow. Well, that's pretty crazy, isn't it? We're so seduced by this that we can't find God. We forget that we're spiritual beings. We forget that we have that power in us. And Deepak Chopra is calling that the field of unlimited possibility. That's what it is, the field of all potential. The field that says yes to whatever it is that we are putting our energy toward. That simply says yes. It's a powerful thing. And here's the law. The law part of it is that when we are aligned with that, when we recognize that and are willing to use that, that is when we have this joyful life, fulfilling, looking forward, knowing that there is nothing but potential for us when we align with it. So how do we do that? You know, for every spiritual law, there's a practice that goes with it. Because just like the Wright brothers understood aerodynamics, they had to put it into a practice. They couldn't just say, yes, we understand the law of aerodynamics. I know how a combustion engine works. I know this law or that physical law, but until you use the law, until you actually put it into practice, it's just numbers on a piece of paper. The engineer can design a building on a piece of paper until it's built and put in. That's the demonstration of the law. So how do we do that? How do we demonstrate this law? Well, there's some very simple ways, and ways you've heard before, but they're so critical to activating and energizing that field of unlimited possibility that we reside in at this moment. And the first idea is simply what your card says, and that is to cultivate stillness. How many minutes a day are you separated from your mobile devices, the TV, the computer, the radio? How many minutes do you spend just being in the silence? Not necessarily meditating. You can have your eyes open and look around. But to cultivate that place of silence is important. How else are we going to connect to this thing that we're in the midst of that we're not aware of? But to create some room. To create some room around it. I've talked about that here before, how important spiritual work is to create some room, to simply cultivate silence. Cultivate silence. Let me read a quote in Deepak's book from a man named Franz Kafka, who was an Australian philosopher and poet. He said this: "You do not need to leave your room. Remain sitting at your table and listen. You need not even listen. Simply wait. You need not even wait. Just learn to become quiet and still and solitary. The world will freely offer itself to you to be unmasked. It has no choice. It will roll in ecstasy at your feet." It will roll in ecstasy at our feet. Cultivate silence. Eyes open, eyes closed. I want that. The world to roll in ecstasy at my feet, meaning simply to let God do what God does, to let the creative force in the universe do what it does through me. Open up. Another way is to simply take that idea and put yourself in nature. I challenge you to walk or to sit in nature and to notice how many colors of green there are. Have you ever even thought about that? How the blades of grass blow in the breeze. To see the amazingness that's all around us so often that we run right by. This time of year, there's so much happening in nature. It's quite amazing. And being in that stillness, being in that awesomeness, opens us up. You see, it makes some room for us to recognize that there is some amazing water that we're in the midst of. The third idea is to spend some time in meditation. I know, people say, "Oh, I don't have time to meditate." If you have time to do this on your phone, you have time to meditate. If you have time to watch how many minutes or hours of TV, you have time to meditate. The problem with us is that we don't make it a priority. We let other stuff come in front of it. But to sit in meditation, whether it's guided by music, as we do here every Sunday at the Soul Center, whether it's in the silence, whether you're staring at a candle, whether you're listening to a guided meditation, whatever it is, find the time, make it a priority to find time and to be in meditation. That is how we'll connect and open ourselves up to that connection with the divine. It works, but we have to do the practice. We have to practice that. There is one other idea that Deepak talks about, a way to open up this area in us, this space in us, to allow the divine to show itself. And that is to practice non-judgment. This is a big one for all of us. And he says simply to do this. This is the mantra. Today, I will judge nothing as it occurs. Today, I will judge nothing as it occurs. See, you can breathe into that. Today, I will judge nothing as it occurs. And practice that. Just practice. That's the mantra. These practices open up a place in us so that we're able to realize the flow of the divine in us, just like the fish. Once we understand that, it is really the basis of every other spiritual law. To realize that there is something beyond the physical in this universe. Something much greater, something much more powerful, something that is indescribable, really, with unlimited potential. And we exist in it. Think of the fish if you get confused about that. We exist in it. And our work is simply these practices to open up the space for us to realize and become aware so that we can use this understanding to have a life filled with joy, filled with abundance, filled with peace and ease, filled with all good things. That's how it works. So as we go into meditation here together, let's carry these ideas. Here we have an opportunity to practice, to simply be right here, right now. There's no place else for us to be. We're not there, so it's not where we are. We're right here. So give yourself the gift of opening up to this amazing presence and power and potential that is God itself, living us, breathing us, sustaining us in every moment, with every heartbeat, right here, right now.
Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda. Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda. Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda. Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda. Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda. Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda. Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda. Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda, Nanda, Nanda. Om Satchitananda, Nanda, Nanda. Om Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda. Satchitananda. Nanda, Nanda. Om Satchitananda. Om Satchitananda.
Where is the door to God? In the sound of a barking dog, in the ring of a hammer, in a drop of rain.